The princess, she was beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. The princess, she was beautiful, fair as day. Oh, little princess, have a care, have a care, have a care. Oh, little princess, have a care of a wicked fay. Then came a wicked fairy there, fairy there, fairy there. Then came a wicked fairy there, who did say, Princess, sleep 100 years, 100 years, 100 years. Princess, sleep 100 years, and own my sway. A hedge grew round them giant high, giant high, giant high. A hedge grew round them giant high, cold and gray. Then came a king's son galloping, galloping, galloping. Then came a king's son galloping, bright and gay. Oh, little princess, lovely maid, lovely maid, lovely maid. Oh, little princess, lovely maid, awake, I pray. The little princess then did wake, then did wake, then did wake. The little princess then did wake, and they rode away. They held a splendid marriage feast, marriage feast, marriage feast. They held a splendid marriage feast that same day. The people all made merry then, merry then, merry then. The people all made merry then with dance and play. This is the story of Jack and his mother, a fine young boy, fine as any other. One day Jack went to sell their cow. He made a bad bargain, got some beans. He went back home and he planted the beans. Then he went to bed. He was tired, I guess. When he woke next morning, he found to his surprise a mile-high beanstalk right before his eyes. So sturdy was the beanstalk, it never bent. He figured he'd climb it, see where it went. He did. It took a while. At the top he found a strange new land that was all but deserted except for a castle grand. He entered the castle to see what he could find, a giant's wife that was good and kind. She fixed him supper, but before he could finish, the giant came home to have his dinner. Can't blame him. He was hungry. Fee-fi-fo-fum, I smell the blood of an Englishman. Mrs. Giant put Jack in the oven to hide till her husband finished supper and went outside. After he did, Jack took the giant's gold, went down the beanstalk, brave and bold. He had no plans of returning. Not while the giant was around, anyway. For quite some time, Jack and his mother lived on the giant's gold. They lived so well, they spent it all. Soon, Jack climbed the beanstalk, and this time, he took the giant's magic hen, the hen that laid eggs of solid gold. But before he could escape, the giant returned with blood in his eye. He set out after Jack with a knife in his hand and chased him right to the edge of his land. They were running. Down the beanstalk they went. Jack got to the bottom before the giant and ran to his house to get a hatchet. He chopped down the beanstalk. It fell, giant and all. And that was the end of him. Her hood was red and her eyes were blue. Ooh. Once upon a time there was a little girl who was very, very pretty and very, very good. Once upon a time there was a little girl, everyone called her Little Red Riding Hood. One day, her mother baked a batch of cookies. Red Riding Hood, won't you take these to Grandmother? She's very sick, and they can help make her well. I'll go at once to Grandmother's side. Goodbye. Her hood was red and her eyes were blue. Ooh. She went on her way and sang a little song. All through the woods she hopped and skipped along. She met a big wolf after just a little while. He greeted her with a curious smile. Where are you going? Asked the wolf. To see my grandmother. She's very sick, and I'm bringing her some cookies. Have you far to go? Oh, yes. I have all the way past these woods. I'll go there and see her too, said the wolf. I'll go this way, and you go that way, and we'll see who gets there first. Her hood was red, and her eyes were blue. Ooh. The wolf went the short way and got there very fast. He knocked on Grandmother's door and said, "It's Red Riding Hood. I've come at last." "Oh, come in," said the grandmother sweetly. "Come in I will," said the wolf most discreetly. The wolf came in his very sneaky way. He was very hungry and hadn't eaten for many a day. He ate poor Grandmother very, very quickly, then crept into her bed to hide and pretended to be sickly. Soon Red Riding Hood came up to the door and asked if she could enter without knowing what was in store. The wolf said, "Oh, come in the sweetest sounding way. Come in, you'll brighten my day." "Hello, Grandmother. My, what big eyes you have." "Better to see you with, my dear." "But Grandmother, what big ears you have." "The better to hear you with, my dear." "And Grandmother, what big teeth you have." "The better to eat you with, my dear." And eat her he did. But he howled so loud that the woodsman came inside, and with an axe he killed the wolf by splitting his hide. Out came Red Riding Hood, Grandmother and all, and thanked the woodsman for being so brave. They took the wolf and dragged him outside and happily buried his mangy hide. So remember, friends, you may court danger whenever you meet a curious stranger. A miller had a daughter whose beauty did abound. He met a king one evening, said, "My daughter can spin you gold. Send her to me quickly, I'll have her spin me some. And if she does it well, my queen she will become." She went to the king's castle and entered a tiny room. "You'll stay here and spin some gold, or tomorrow may be your doom." As he closed the door behind him, she wept with tears for her life. Suddenly, a dwarf appeared. "Can I be of help tonight?" "Oh, if you can spin me some gold, I'll give you anything you ask." "My price will be your firstborn." if you become the queen. That's all I ask.
Though it would hurt her deeply, the young girl soon agreed, and the dwarf began his task. He spun the gold indeed. The very next thing that morning, the king came to her room. When he noticed the gold before him, he couldn't believe what he saw. Soon the king and queen were married. Soon they had a son, and the dwarf appeared to demand him, for his task had been well done.
The queen remembered her bargain and tried to get out of it. So the dwarf said that if she could guess his name, their bargain he would forget.
When he appeared the next morning, the queen tried to guess his name. She tried and tried with many, but it was all in vain.
I'll give you one more chance. One chance to try and win.
Then the name she finally guessed was Rumpelstiltskin. The dwarf went into a fit and stomped on the ground so hard that he disappeared, for Rumpelstiltskin was his name. Once upon a time there were 3 bears, Mama and Papa and baby too. They lived in a house deep in the woods, Mama and Papa and baby too. They had some porridge one fine day, but it was much too hot to eat. They went for a walk while it cooled, Mama and Papa and baby too. Goldilocks passed by their house and opened the door, soft as a mouse. She saw the porridge on the table and ate it as quickly as she was able. After she finished her tasty meal, she went upstairs to try to sleep and found 3 beds to her surprise, but only one was just her size.
It was the bed of the baby bear.
Soon the bears came back from their forage and found that someone had eaten their porridge. Papa Bear snarled and Baby Bear cried, "We'll find the thief and have his eye." They went upstairs and looked about and found Goldilocks in Baby Bear's bed. They roared so loud that she awoke, so frightened by the bears that she quickly fled. Wherever you go, whatever you do, heed this advice I give to you. Never take anyone else's things, or the song of Goldilocks you may sing. Once upon a time, a long time ago, a man had a daughter whom we all know. Her name was Cinderella and her face was fair, a beautiful girl with golden hair. When his first wife died, a new one he found. She had 2 daughters who were mean, plump, and round. The prince of the kingdom sent an invitation to a royal ball for all of his nation. The 2 stepsisters prepared for the ball, but they wouldn't let Cinderella go at all. After they left, she started to cry. Then her fairy godmother appeared to find out why. Cinderella told her tale of woe, and her godmother said that she could go. Here are glass slippers and a gown of gold, and even a coach with stallions bold. Have a good time, but remember well, you must leave the ball before the clock strikes 12. For if you forget to leave, my dear, all of your fineries will disappear. As the fairy godmother said her goodbyes, she saw tears of joy in Cinderella's eyes. When Cinderella arrived at the castle, she was greeted by a handsome prince.
he became so enchanted he asked her to dance, for suddenly his heart was filled with romance. They danced the evening through, and the prince never left Cinderella's side. Can't blame him. She was so beautiful.
And 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and...
It was getting late, and the castle clock began to strike 12. Cinderella turned from the prince and ran all the way across the ballroom floor. She ran so fast, she lost the glass slipper, but she was just too late. When she got to the gate, all of her fineries were gone, because the clock just couldn't wait. Inside the castle, the prince announced to everyone that he would marry the girl whose foot would fit the glass slipper. And the very next day, all of the ladies in the land came to the castle to try their hand. The two stepsisters tried their best, but they failed too, like all of the rest. Smiling, Cinderella asked, "May I try?" Her stepsisters laughed, but it was her turn, and the prince said that everyone must have a fair try. Cinderella's foot fit the glass slipper perfectly, because as we all know, it was made for her. She brought the other glass slipper from her pocket and put it on too. Then her fairy godmother appeared, and with a tap of her wand, Cinderella's rags were changed into the most beautiful gown you can imagine. At last, her stepsisters recognized her. They knelt at her feet and said that they were sorry for all of their meanness. The prince and Cinderella were so happy, the happiest people in all the kingdom. A few days later, he and Cinderella were married, and they were happy the rest of their lives. So remember not to choose your friends by the clothes they wear or the money they have, not by their homes or where they're born, but only by what they're really like. This is the story of the ugly duckling. Alone he had no friend, but gather round and listen well until you hear the end. One day a duck sat hatching her eggs, and when her work was done, much to her surprise, while viewing her brood, she found an ugly one. Both mother and brood went to the duckyard to see what they could find, but the poor ugly duckling was so mistreated, he almost lost his mind. "I'll run far away," cried the ugly duckling. "I'll go and hide in a marsh." But the geese that were there still picked on him, so he ran once more. This is the story of the ugly duckling. Alone he had no friend, but gather round and listen well until you hear the end. One lonely night, just at sunset, while flying through the air, he saw 3 swans in a pond down below. Oh, I will join them there. "What beautiful birds," cried the ugly duckling. "Oh, to be like them. I hope they don't dislike me. I hope they don't dislike me. I'm so lonely for a friend. As he glided on the water and swam toward the swans, his own image he could see. It was just like theirs, it was just like theirs. A swan he turned out to be. Now you've heard the story of the ugly duckling. Listen here to me. Judge your neighbor by how he is and not what he seems to be. Nickety noo noo noo, nickety noo, nickety noo noo noo, nickety noo. Once upon a time a miller died, and his 3 sons wept by his side. He gave one a mill and another an ass, but the 3rd one got just a pussycat. What can I do with a pussycat? What can I do with a pussycat? The cat answered back, get me a sack and a pair of boots, and I'll show you what you can do with a pussycat. Nickety noo noo noo, nickety noo, nickety noo noo noo, nickety noo. The cat went into the briar patch with a sack of grain over his back. He tried to catch some rabbits and did, and put them all into his sack. He took his catch to the king of the land as a present from his master grand. The king replied with a gracious smile, thank you, and thank your master too. Nickety noo noo noo, nickety noo. The king will repay his master, I bet, and Puss in Boots too. Puss said to his master, today's the day. If you do as I ask, your fortune is made. Go down to the river and swim at 3, because the king and his daughter pass there daily at 3. The master went to the river that day. Somehow he trusted Puss's clever way. As the king's carriage passed, Puss let out a cry, master is drowning! Please save him, sire! Nickety noo noo noo, nickety noo, nickety noo noo noo, nickety noo. I'll save him, the great king cried, and later we'll dine at the castle with my daughter at his side. Soon master and princess became good friends, and Puss had accomplished his noble ends. Puss was rewarded and happy for life when master and princess became man and wife. Nickety noo noo noo, nickety noo. Always be helpful whenever you can. Nickety noo. A traveling man was Gulliver, a traveling man was he. He traveled across the country and o'er the 7 seas. Gulliver, Gulliver, a traveling man was he. He went to every nation to see what he could see. One day he sailed for a land which was far away. His ship was wrecked upon its shore, and he was there to stay. Lilliput, Lilliput was the name of this strange land, and the tiny Lilliputians were no bigger than his hand. They tied and found poor Gulliver
they feared his mortal size. To free this giant from the seas they thought would be unwise. But Gulliver, Gulliver, a gentleman was he. Soon they released him and set the strange man free. The Lilliputian king came to see our hero bold, and told him of his troubles with an enemy of old. I'll help you and your people fight this enemy, if you give me a ship and sail to go back to my home country. The king agreed. Soon the war began, soon the war began, and the tiny Lilliputians scattered in fear and ran. But Gulliver, Gulliver came into the fore and beat down the enemy until there were no more. When the battle was over, the king came to his side and grasped the hand of Gulliver and said his sad goodbye. With a ship and men to sail it, he left his tiny land. As the tiny Lilliputians cheered their hero grand. There was a king of China one time, there was a king one time. His people loved him for he was good, good was the king of China, good was the king one time. One day through a castle window flew a nightingale. Its song was beauty to the ear, the song of the nightingale, song of the nightingale. The king had the nightingale sing his song as he entered the land of Nod each night, entered the land of Nod. But one day the nightingale flew away, one day he flew away. The king was lonely for his friend, lonely for his friend. Soon he became very, very sick and longed for the nightingale, longed for his nightingale. The king of Japan, when he heard of his fate, sent him a handmade bird. It rang and squawked and sang its song, but not like the nightingale. No, not like the nightingale. One day the king of China heard the song he loved so well. His nightingale had returned to sing his magic spell. He made the good king well. So remember now this tale I tell, remember this tale I tell. Never forsake a friend in need when he is a friend indeed. Never forsake a friend. There once was a town infested with rats. There once was a town infested with rats. The town's council cried, what can we do? The Pied Piper replied, I've an answer for you. We'll give you all we have to give. We'll give you all we have to give. Just save our town, please save us all. We'll give you all we have to give. My price you'll find won't be that high. My price you'll find won't be that high. I only want 50,000 guilders. 50,000 guilders we'll gladly give. The piper began to play his flute, to work his magic to play his flute. He led the rats from the fair town. He led the rats to the river to drown. After his job was very well done, after his job was very well done,
He came to the council to ask his reward, but the council only gave him 20 guilders. You promised me all you had to give. You promised me all you had to give. I only asked 50,000 guilders, but we think 20 guilders is all you're worth. I'll make you sorry for your lie. I'll lead your children o'er the mountain to hide. The council laughed at this reply. Leave our town while you're still alive. The piper played another tune, on his flute another tune. The children came and followed its sound, o'er the mountain, away from the town. The townspeople search the mountain each day to hear the children's voices so happy and gay. But when they get near and close, their voices quiet and vanish away. So never, never cheat and lie. Never, never cheat and lie, for the consequences will make you sad. Always be honest through life, my lad. The fox went out on a chilly night, and he prayed for the moon for to give him light. He had many a mile to go that night before he reached the town. Oh, town, oh, town, oh. Many a mile to go that night before he reached the town. Oh, a hungry fox one day did spy, fa-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la, some nice ripe grapes that hung on high, fa-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la. The fox he tried, but all in vain, the nice ripe grapes for to obtain. But the fruit it was beyond his power, then he went and said the grapes were sour. Yes, the fox went out on a chilly night, and he prayed for the moon for to give him light. He had many a mile to go that night before he reached the town. Oh, town, oh, town, oh. Many a mile to go that night before he reached the town. Oh, now remember all when you try sour grapes, never cry. Don't be like the fox when you can't succeed, but try again and accomplish your deed.